Hello friends, tonight we're going to take a look at the Parker Mountain Machine Beretta 92 compensator. This is a great compensator with an awful attachment method that looks fantastic and performs very well. We all know Parker Mountain Machine. They make excellent compensators and all kinds of other cool gun stuff too. I absolutely hate the way their comps attach, but they look so good and perform so well, I'm always a little bit torn. They install via a shim system and red Loctite. This makes them effectively permanent. Even if you can apply heat, it's tough to wrench them off without damaging the gun. It's likely that you'll need them to remove the comp. So once this thing goes on there, it's fucking on there. And I hate that. This is now your gun with this thing on there permanently, and good luck getting it off there. Now don't get me wrong, some of you will be able to get it off, but it is a colossal pain in the ass. Trust me, I've had to remove one before. But there will be plenty of time for me to complain about the installation method later. First, a little background. The Beretta 92 has always been a remarkably niche gun, considering how great the platform is. The people who like them really like them. We're crazy about the damn things. This particular 92A1 is the most reliable handgun I've ever owned. Beretta 92s, courtesy of their locking mechanism, have substantially less muzzle flip than the tilting barrel guns that we're more used to. When the popularity of compensators grew, I couldn't help but think, if comps work great on a Glock, how well would they work on a Beretta? Luckily, the 92 is experiencing something of a renaissance. There are multiple compensator options. Langdon, hero that he is, figured out how to mount a red dot on Berettas, and there are more accessories than I ever thought there would be for my favorite platform. And Beretta is even making cool models now that we've been asking for years. It's a good time to be a weird Beretta fucker. So I decided to go with the PMM over some of the other options. Sometimes when I think about the attachment method, I wonder, God, why did I do that? But they've always performed well for me, again, at the cost of being effectively permanently attached to the gun. But this one has performed exactly as advertised. I never want to stop shooting the damn thing once I get started.
Let's see. Comp's very effective.
This compensator keeps it super flat. In general, I'd forgotten how much fun it is to blow through 9mm at the range. With ammo increasingly available, I don't feel so bad about it. And the PMM comp makes it far too easy. You just have to go fast. Me won't go fast. All right, let's take a closer look. Features. The Parker Mountain Machine Beretta JTTC compensator is made out of 7075 aluminum. Wow, that's really hard to say. This comp has a Type 3, Class 2, hard coat, anodized finish. I don't know what the fuck those numbers mean, but this finish seems pretty sturdy to me. So if you know what the fuck any of that means, you know, that's great. The machining is excellent, like all PMM products that I've used. Just absolutely flawless. These are designed to work with the factory threaded barrel, and I love that. Beretta makes these barrels relatively easy to get, much easier than other manufacturers do. I'm a big fan. To fit the factory barrel, which is threaded to 1/2 by 28, as is the comp, everything should be threaded to 1/2 by 28 at this point. Looking over the comp, we see no holes for a set screw. That's because this comp doesn't use a set screw, though I certainly wish it did. Instead, you get a little plastic bag with the comp that contains metal shims of varying sizes and a small vial of red Loctite. You fit shims and thread the comp on until you have it mostly timed. Then you add the Loctite and apply enough pressure to time it right, lining up the compensator with the gun. When you have it perfectly timed, it looks killer. Check that out. But have you ever worked with red Loctite? That shit is permanent. It isn't coming off unless you apply high levels of heat and then a substantial amount of pressure to a barrel. On the gun, you're applying all this heat. I'm not crazy about that idea. I think the Loctite has to be heated up to something like 600 or 700 degrees, and then you try to grip it and turn it without damaging the barrel or the gun. So PMM advertises that this uses the same system rifles have been using for years. I think they mean crush washers, but have you ever had to put red Loctite to your AR-15 muzzle device? I mean, I'm sure someone out there is going to chime in and be like, oh, I have, but I for damn sure don't do that. I just use a crush washer and shit stays on there. It's fine. So once this red Loctite cures, this is virtually permanent. Also, I've installed multiple PMM compensators at this point. Just don't make a mistake. It's permanent, and the Loctite cures super fast. Do not fuck it up. Once you put the Loctite on there, you have committed. This system is excellent if you plan to never, ever, for any reason, remove the compensator. Are there any other features? No, that's pretty much it. It's a threaded piece of aluminum with some holes in it. Performance. This thing performs absolutely as advertised. Most importantly, it has been reliable thus far, though I need to put more rounds through it before we can really say it's reliable. Because of how they work, compensators can interfere with tilting barrel systems. They push down on the part of the gun that needs to tilt up for the system to cycle. When you think about it, Glocks and HKs and Walthers and the like aren't really ideal for compensators. This system is. The only thing that would be better is a fixed barrel system. I've had no failures of any kind. This has always been my most reliable gun, and I don't think that's been affected by the comp. But because testing was being done sort of at the tail end of the ammo shortage, things are getting better now. So, we'll continue with that. But I only have 425 rounds through this comp. That's really nothing to write home about. That's almost not even worthy of mention. But normally, problems are immediate in my experience with compensators. That's the only reason I even feel comfortable reviewing this thing with only 425 rounds through it. You usually know if a comp is going to work or not within 100 rounds, usually within 50. But just know that we need more info before we can say, hey, this thing always works. It's very hard to quantify recoil reduction. Because of the attachment method, there is no way for me to remove the compensator to show you comparative recoil. So we're mostly relying on my memory here. And, there will be range footage to show that this gun is very fast with this comp on there, but it was also very fast before that. But I reviewed older footage of myself shooting the gun. That might not be that useful because I didn't shoot nearly as much 9mm during the shortage. Every time I go out and shoot 9mm, 5.56 or 308, I just feel rusty compared to when I was going to the range constantly shooting as much as I wanted. So keep that in mind. My tests are never remotely scientific, but this one is especially bad. But subjectively, I felt super fast shooting with comp attached. It feels really great. If you haven't shot with a compensator before, the recoil impulse is kind of strange. You feel just as much recoil as before, but when the muzzle starts to go up, you can feel those vented gases push it back down. It's like an invisible hand gives the muzzle a little help getting back on target. The feeling is kind of crazy at first, but then you feel kind of weird without it. But you're not experiencing less recoil, just less muzzle rise. That rise is what you really need to fight. That's the key to speed, especially with a pistol optic, where tracking the dot becomes critical. Because of the Beretta's mechanism, which, I've described that in excruciating detail elsewhere, this comp feels a bit different. Instead of feeling the invisible hand like you do with a Glock, the recoil impulse was converted entirely into a rearward motion. There's the same amount of recoil, it just moves in one direction. Now, of course, there's always going to be some rise, but I'm saying relative to how it felt before, it feels like it's primarily just moving in that direction. Berettas have less muzzle flip anyway. That's the reason that I prefer the design. But with this comp, if I had to quantify it, I'd say there's between 30 and 40% less climb depending on the ammo used. Hotter ammo pushes the comp more, driving the muzzle down with more force. In the video, I'm using fairly hot ammo by American standards. It's European-made NATO spec stuff.
It should anyway.
You can see how flat that muzzle is. I'm still experiencing the same amount of recoil overall, but the front sight snaps right back on target in a flash. I've talked about this before, but my left arm and shoulder is completely fucked up. It's a real useless piece of shit. I have much diminished motor function, and you can see that I duck my head like it's 2002 because I can't raise my shoulder normally on that side. Compensators make life so much easier. When one of these is attached, my grip strength problems matter a lot less. My recoil control is much closer to what it was before the issue with the left arm developed. For me, this has become almost essential, certainly something that I prefer to use. In some cases, folks do feel additional blast from pistol comps. There's just no way around it, but I've noticed that the PMM does seem to have less than others. With a lot of compensators, ejection is weaker, not so here. I didn't notice much change at all, and that's because of the Beretta's mechanism, I think. Having something at the end of the muzzle pressing down on the muzzle just doesn't impede the mechanism like it does on a system, which relies on that barrel tilting upward to fucking cycle. Also, doesn't that just look satisfying to use? It is super fun. So I love shooting with this comp attached, yet I don't recommend it. I really don't think you should get one. Why? Well, the attachment method. For most people, it is not a good solution. Once this is attached, you can't unattach it easily. It's on there. With all my set screw comps, if I want to take them off, it's no big deal. They can come off to test recoil or to test them with another comp or to make the gun smaller or to add a suppressor or change the barrel or whatever you need to do with them. Or perhaps more important, with this comp on there, you can't remove the barrel for cleaning or parts replacement. If I broke a part in this gun, I'd have to really just work around the slide with the barrel stuck in there. No, thank you. And now is the moment that some Costco commando comes in and says, all you need is heat. 650 or 700 degrees Fahrenheit will allow you to remove the compensator. I have 17 blow torches in my garage. I have 16 different ways that I can generate that much heat. Oh, I see you're new to red Loctite. Try that. Yes, you can absolutely remove this with heat, but you have to heat the comp through to the threads. There's a lot of metal to heat there. And then you run the risk of overheating the barrel. If you can do it at all, it's a risk. I wouldn't recommend it at home. I would let PMM take care of that. We choose threaded compensators over something like porting because threading one on isn't permanent. That's the whole point of using one. So what exactly does the red Loctite prevent? Well, this whole system seems to most fear that the compensator will come off. Why the fuck would that matter? Just tighten the set screws, maybe add a little blue Loctite. Yes, blue Loctite kind of sucks for the end of your barrel, but if you're applying it to a set screw, yeah, it seems to work. I've had very good luck with that. And also just check them often. If it's loose, I've usually found out long before it became a problem and then I fix it. It's a non-issue. This shim system is one of those things that just solves the fucking shit out of the problem. It's built to solve just a non-issue. I can only see this being advantageous if this is going on a carry gun and you're really, really worried about it coming loose. But I don't know. Maybe you just never maintain your guns or something. You know, you guys know I'm not exactly fastidious about cleaning stuff, but just check a set screw periodically. And this brings us back to porting, which I mentioned earlier. The Practical Tactical Minimalist and I were doing some Beretta upgrades at the same time. I decided to go with the PMM while he had his barrel ported. He arrived at the same place with a permanent modification, only his gun is much smaller and doesn't have this giant hunk of shit hanging off the front of it. He made the good choice, I made the bad choice. So don't be like me, get the barrel ported. That solves all the problems. And then you can have a second barrel that you can easily swap out for suppressed shooting or whatever. Notice that I said swap out. Again, that's not an option with the PMM. Porting would also let you easily maintain your gun. If you break the firing pin, no worries. You can take out the ported barrel to make the gun easier to work on. Porting is definitely the way to go. And by the way, once you're installing the PMM, when you add that red Loctite, the clock is ticking. You have committed and there is no going back. You've done it, so make sure you get it right. Final thoughts. I'm torn here. I love the way this thing shoots, but I just can't recommend it. Unless you know with all your heart and soul that you absolutely love this compensator and plan to keep it on your gun for the rest of the time that you own it, or don't mind sending it back to PMM anytime you need the comp removed, I don't think you should buy one of these. For the vast majority of users, in my opinion, this is not the right compensator. And it sucks because I love everything else about it. But that mount system is just senselessly permanent. It's unfortunate when I encounter a product like this, something truly excellent that I have to cross off my list for something like the installation method. I love the way the comp looks. I love the machining. I'm crazy about the performance, but I just can't encourage you to buy one. I wouldn't go this route. There are some other options, and I think we'll discuss those in more detail in another video. But at this point, it looks like porting is the way to go. The solution's going to be permanent either way, so you may as well go with the more convenient permanent solution. The Beretta barrel is open, so you don't even have to do any work to the slide. That's the winner, and it doesn't get in the way. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon. Good night.